Okay, this is a demonstration on cutting the Carlos border. What I've done here is I've cut two parallel lines that represent my border, and what I've done is taken my dividers and on the outside line just marked off every little section completely around the border itself. Then I took a scribe and lightly in between these I found my center and just very lightly scribed my center line. From there, after I've got my center line, I start going from the center towards the top. I just scribe a straight line that'll come from the center of the what I have here is a concho, so I want to come from the center and keep all my lines straight. So I've went all the way around and lightly scribed where I want my cuts to be. Okay, so what I've done here is I've cut my border lines, which are parallel to each other. I went back through and very lightly I've found my center between the two lines here, and from there from the center going out, I just do a very slight scribe line just as a marker as to where I want to go. From there, to make this appearance here is actually two very simple cuts. I'm going to head towards the outside. What I'm wanting to do is round this corner, so I'm making a slight radius cut here and here. One thing that I do a little bit different, instead of leaning my graver to the inside, I'm leaning it to the outside when I make the cut. So I start from where my center is, I get back in this trough where my first cut was, lean my graver to the outside, and so that's how I go about making my top cuts. When I cut, after I've went all the way around and made all my top cuts, I'll come back and I just eyeball, try and find the center between these two lines. Just lightly scribe a line as a marker. Same basic cuts as what I did on the top. Start here and lean my graver to the outside. And that gives you the basic formation of the Carlos border. To finish up, you want to actually have what would appear to be a T at the top. All I'm doing is digging my graver in and heading towards the center of that line. Make sure you have any burrs out. So that gives you the basic how to cut the Carlos border. Okay, so this is the finished concho after cutting the Carlos border. To go over again the steps that we went through. First, you cut your main border lines, which are parallel to each other. From there, you find your center between the two parallel lines and lightly scribe that. And then you work your way out to the outside with two cuts. One thing that I did say is that I lean my graver to the outside instead of the inside. That's just a way that I've started cutting it. That's not to say that you can't lean your graver towards the inside and cut like you would regularly engrave something. That's basically it. The main thing to remember is when starting from your center and heading towards your border lines, you want to start out very thin, and then as you work your way towards the border, your engraver is going to progressively get deeper. Another pretty obvious deal is you don't want to break your border by cutting into it with your engraver. When you do that, then you've ruined the illusion of having the border itself. So that's it.